Busy but broke. That's the phrase we hear more than any other phrase from real estate investors who come to us. I'm Christina with Simple CFO, and today I'm sitting down with Senior CFO Michael Glaspie to show you exactly why that happens and how we fix it. Michael Glaspie has been a Senior CFO with us since August 22. He is one of our longest tenured team members, and honestly, a lot of what we do today exists because Michael has been such a crucial part of building these systems with us and helping with training on the frameworks, and just has really jumped in and helped us wherever we need it. Michael doesn't just apply our process to his clients, because he does work with clients too. He also teaches it to CFOs that join our team. So with that said, he knows it inside out, frontwards, backwards. He lives it every single day. So Michael, thank you for being here with me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited you're here. All right. So, quick snapshot, kind of what we go through a little bit. You work with about 6 clients, if I'm not mistaken. So, without giving names, give me one sentence on what their world looked like before Simple CFO, and then one sentence on what it looks like now.
One sentence.
Maybe a couple.
Yeah, maybe a couple. So before Simple CFO, what we see most often is that clients come in with a ton of ambition, but not a lot of clarity. I mean, that's just the basic way that we can phrase it. Not a lot of clarity. But after working with Simple CFO, they gain clarity, but primarily just through the systems that we implement for them. So they're not really stepping outside of their comfort zone. They're just putting more structure around their finances, how they evaluate it, and then what they do in order to improve the numbers that really matter.
Yeah, that said very well.
I hope so.
I originally went with one word, and then I was like, I don't think we can do that in one word. So I changed it to one sentence.
I was trying to think of one. I was going to say chaos, and I'm like, oh, it's not always chaos. Yeah, I was trying to think of the right word, but yeah.
Just depends, right? All right. And then, so what makes Simple CFO so different from most accountants and bookkeepers they work with before? Because most of these clients come in and they're like, I have a bookkeeper, I have a CPA, and they just don't have the right someone. So what makes us different?
I mean, so many different things. So I say this, and I'll say this, until my dying day. You have to have somebody on your accounting team that really understands your industry. It's really important. And when we start to piece together the different accounting team members, your bookkeeper, your tax professional, whatever, a lot of them are compartmentalized. They may understand bookkeeping, but they don't get the full picture. And so when somebody comes to Simple CFO, they're getting that individual that not only owns the industry or knows the industry, but they also get the full picture. And so now when we're bringing in these different accounting team members, we can actually create a team. I like to think of the CFO as the quarterback of the financial department. And you'd rather have a quarterback that's been to the Super Bowl a few times, right? Instead of somebody just trying to cut their chops for the first time, and they're just, pulling out all the stops, throwing Hail Marys.
That is true. And CPAs kind of come to you with what they need. Bookkeepers categorize transactions, and they ask you for what they need as well. So if you have a CFO that quarterbacks it and understands it full circle, then that just helps the owner then understand, is what I'm gathering you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. Because, bookkeeper, you said it very well. If a bookkeeper is asking you, what should I do with this? That often is because they don't fully understand your business, right? And if the CPA or the tax preparer is asking you, how do I move this? What is this for? And they're trying to communicate with the bookkeeper, and there's a lot of friction, and they keep bringing that owner back in. It's again because they both don't understand your business very well. So when we talk about clarity, the level of clarity that you get when having the proper CFO on your team is bar none.
It is. And you know what? I know I'm going to squirrel out on that a little bit, because bookkeeping is really important. And
for sure,
some bookkeepers don't understand business, but I feel like you really need a bookkeeper that understands real estate, because real estate can be pretty complex. So, what's your take on actually having a bookkeeper that knows their business too?
So I say this also: the one thing that every business owner needs is bookkeeping. I could make the argument that depending on where you are, you may not be ready for a CFO. I can make that argument, but every business needs a bookkeeper. And if that bookkeeper doesn't understand your industry, then your books are going to be wrong. And when your books are wrong, you're not going to have clarity. You're going to overpay on taxes. You're going to have difficulty getting loans. You're going to be confused as to why money is bleeding out of your account and why you work harder and make more sales, but you still are busy but broke, right? That all of that stems from poor bookkeeping, all of it.
Absolutely. And, that so key to having the right people on your team. I love that whole conversation. I'm pretty sure we could talk about
Hours.
for quite some time. Let's talk about like how you've evolved with Simple CFO. Obviously, we don't have the time to go into the 4 years that you've put into us, but your role is like so key, so important because you've been with us to like really help and evolve these systems. I know, I've evolved some of the training. I came in, I developed this, I developed that, but I can't tell you like how important you've been to that process and like helping me. And just if I just throw it off of you and you throw some things back and just our relationship and being able to define and create those systems is really cool. So that's what we do today. Like
Right.
define that process, give it to the CFOs, train the CFOs, and make sure that we are giving that process to all the clients that come in. So what are you most proud of? What do you see is the biggest difference for our clients with the systems that we've created?
So many things. Being able to see the new CFOs come in, adopt the system, and then take off and then impact the clients very, very quickly too. That is, I guess, what I'm most proud of. When we think about why that's the case, is because what we've worked and the systems are already there, but what we've continued to work on is developing the process so that every client gets the same standard of attention to detail, right, as they go through it. And as we're bringing on CFOs, we're bringing on CFOs with the experience, with the knowledge of the industry, with the tenacity and the hunger to want to be in this consultative role. And then all we're doing is giving them the framework to then go out there and implement it. And so we've been able to time and time again, not only bring on new CFOs, but bring on multiple clients and deliver the same results time and time again.
You say it so well. Because you really have been key in training CFOs. And what's funny is I remember when you first came on board, right? Because I've been here quite some time too. And I remember the individual, the CFO that helped train. And I remember he was training you. And I remember him coming back to me like within a week. And he said, I don't need to train this guy. He said, he knows so much. He said, I can train him on our processes. But at that time, we hadn't evolved to where we are right now.
Right.
We still had the same level of help because CFOs, they came in, they helped. We all have the heart to help. But the process has evolved so much. And he was just like, this guy's good. Like, he doesn't need to be under me or work with me. Like, he's got it. We're just going to unleash him and let him run.
Well, I appreciate it, but I think we've been blessed, lucky, whatever you want to call it, that most of the CFOs that we brought on fit that criteria though. When they come in with the experience and with the right mindset. And then for us, it makes it really easy. It makes it really easy for us to say, okay, we know that you have the personality and experience, apply this framework on this process, and let's go out there and let's execute. And we've been able to do that. I mean, I can name, and I'm sure you've already interviewed a few that are going to be on the podcast, but I can name a handful of them that done the same thing, right? And it's already have made some massive impacts in the company.
Definitely. I agree. And then from that vantage point, like, what does a Simple CFO system make possible for a CFO that they just couldn't do flying solo?
Oh, for sure. So I think what it is you've phrased it probably the best way. The simple fact that you could throw something off of me or anybody else on the CFO team, and then we get the opportunity to brainstorm. We get the opportunity to poke holes in it. We get the opportunity to say, hey, look, this is my typical approach, but we're not seeing the same results that we have with the other clients. What am I not looking at that may change the outcome? And then we get this mastermind, this think tank of all of these CFOs with all kinds of experience to be able to go in there and help each other problem solve. Without that, there are other very capable CFOs, but when you're on an island by yourself, you're only limited to what's in here at the moment that it's in here, right? Because sometimes you don't think you might know it, But if you don't recall it in that moment, no, you can't use it. So it helps to be in that environment where we continue to have ongoing training, continuing education for CFOs. We have these ongoing weekly meetings where we're powwowing and problem solving. That's the value of having a collective group of CFOs that know a specific industry and things of that nature.
Definitely. And it's funny is we learn from our clients too, right? So if I don't know something and I'll be like, hey, do you have a client that does this? And then 4 other CFOs could pipe up and be like, actually, I did. We literally just talked about that last week. So it's kind of cool how, the industry, it's 90% real estate,
Right.
so it's like they're doing some type of deal, right?
Right.
So there's different ways to look at it. So there's always someone that can be in your corner there, which is really cool.
100%. And to that point, and I love to tell this to the clients, and we promote this a lot at Simple CFO. We don't care if you're subject to a lease option, wraparound mortgages, seller finance, you name it. All the weird, I call them weird, but all these new buzzwords when it comes to real estate, we've done it. If the CFO hasn't personally done it, we've worked with a client who's done it. So we really do know it inside and out.
Yeah. My husband has personally done every deal that could be wonky or crazy. And when he used to bring it to me, I'm like, what are we doing here?
Right.
And so,
Right.
and a lot of people have that, like where they have that actual personal experience. And I know I didn't know, like my husband would bring all these deals to me and I'm like, what are we doing here? And it was just really crazy. And then you start to hear all this. And by the way, for everyone listening, Michael trains on real estate. So he kind of understands all those deals. And I'm sure you've done them yourself. I think you have. So that's the cool thing too, is we all have like a personal relationship with investing as well, which is really cool.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into our tools, a little bit of our tools. So walk me through, it's lined out, right? So, and most importantly, the first 60 days with the client is where you really want to drill in, you really want to lay the foundation and get them to have clarity and understanding as quickly as possible. Obviously not too quick, but there's other things that could get in the way, but we won't go through that. But in that first 60 days of laying the foundation, what are we actually doing with the client at that time? Like data cleanup, account, all that stuff. What are you actually doing? Take us through it.
So the first thing that we're doing on that first initial call, on our battle plan call, we are really trying to understand the client at an intimate level. And we're not talking about, hey, what's your goal? I want to make $50,000 a month, or I want to make 10 million this year instead of 5 million. All of that's superficial. We want to know why. Why are you pursuing it? Then we also want to do a little backwards math. So, okay, just hypothetically, all right, you want to send your kids to college, you want to get a live-in nanny, and you want a personal chef to cook you 3 meals a week. Okay, great. All that's great. What's the actual cost associated with that, right? Now let's take that cost and plug that in. And this is where we start to determine the real, we call it the break-even number, but that real number that we're really chasing. Now, once we have that, then we move into the analytical phase. And we're walking them through our expense analysis. We're looking at the accuracy of the books, right? We're actually evaluating their bookkeeper now. All right. We're going through making sure that, does this transaction actually belong here, or should it belong under marketing? All right. Or whatever the case is. And the reason that's important is because when we're looking for the trends, when we're looking, hey, you know what? You have lost money in the past 6 months. And when we look at your expenses, it seems like your marketing is 40% of your total expense ratio, right? So if that's the case, now we know to dive into marketing. How effective is your marketing? What is your conversion rate? What's your client acquisition cost? I mean, all of these conversations, for the most part, business owners know that they need to be aware of it. But again, they don't have the structure, they don't have that person to guide them through and highlight those numbers. So as we're going through that, the first 60 days is a lot of deep diving and finding, one, is it accurate? Let's make it accurate if it's not. Now let's start to analyze trends. And once we analyze trends, let's find the root cause of the issue. What is the root cause? So for example, let's say, oh, we're not having enough revenue. You know what a lot of people love to say? Well, it's just because we don't have enough leads. Now, is it, or is it because your flip projects, instead of taking 120 days, are now taking 270 days? Is it because every time you create a flip budget, you go over by 20% on your budget versus your estimate? What is it really? But once we find the root cause, then by the end of that 60 days or coming out of that 60 days, that's when we start creating our action plan. What are we actually going to do to reverse these issues and start to see improvements quarter after quarter after quarter?
And then, that if we don't have those correct numbers, I will add, we're a firm built on profit first, right? David wrote the book, Profit First for Real Estate Investors. So if we don't dig into those numbers beforehand, if we don't have accurate numbers, we could be turning over a plan to, a PFARP, as we've been calling it, Profit First Rollout Plan. We could be planning that over the next quarters on inaccurate numbers. That's not to say you can't start with Profit First and just start putting money aside. But when we actually do the rollout and build that into the dashboard, how important is that?
Extremely important, because you're right. You can build anything. You can build anything, but if the foundation is false, right? If it's fake, then we could be building something completely, I don't want to say completely wrong, but because to your point, can we start Profit First right now and just implement it? Yes. Will it still help us? Yes, because it's gonna alleviate a lot of the stress around the money management part. But when we're talking about seeing massive improvements, it's like us saying, hey, let's fix this thing. I think it's the brick on the bottom, when in reality it's the rebar or whatever. All right, well, I just spent 2 weeks on this brick when I could have been spending 2 weeks on the rebar, right? And so in that situation, we want to make sure we're working on the right things, because that's how we see that exponential growth or the impactful growth, the change that most of our clients want to see. We can see it when we're focused on the right things.
Absolutely. That's honing in that they wouldn't know. And in your brain, that's why people are so busy. Owners are like wearing 20 different hats because they don't really know what to focus on.
Right. It's the throw the mud on the wall and see what sticks type of mentality. That's exactly right.
Yep. So let's back up to Profit First. So they have the book. Now we have the workbooks coming out soon.
Yep.
You can take a piece of paper, you can back your way into it, but what's the difference between them reading it and then actually having Simple CFO help implement it?
Oh, I mean, that's
DIY.
One of my favorite phrases is education without application is just entertainment. And I think most entrepreneurs fall into the realm of educate. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to go to a seminar. I'm going to do all conference this. I'm going to spend all this money on continuing education, but I'm only going to do maybe this much of it. Right. And I actually was just talking about this earlier to somebody else. Elon Musk contributes a lot of his success to just doing things quickly and failing fast. Right. And the concept that I'm trying to articulate is, well, sometimes we just got to put things in action so we can see what works and make the minor adjustments. And the sooner we do that, the sooner we start seeing results. So to your point, yeah, you can read it and you can try to interpret it. And the book is well written, and it tries its best to try to capture most of the general market. Everybody's unique. Every business is got these little nuances. So by being able to come to Simple CFO, we can highlight what those nuances are for you. So we can tweak the Profit First to make it actually work for you. We can customize it and put it into action very quickly.
Absolutely. Yep. Perfectly said. Because that is why our system works. So it's not just a theory. It's not just something you read. It's literally built into our tools, built into our processes. We train on it. They can't not do it right when they work with us. And it's specific to their business and what they're doing. It's never one size fits all. You can't just do it and then apply. Like, you can't start a new business that's outside of real estate or something completely different and then take that same Profit First plan and apply it to that business. So it's not one size fits all at all.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So Profit First, we'll stay here just a little bit. Any clients that you've worked with that have really, really turned a corner with Profit First? Like, what were they doing before and after? Because when they come in, if they don't have it set up at all, they don't have the accounts, their revenue hasn't grown. So before and after, give me an example of how you built the system for a client.
Okay. I'll give you 2 examples that they always stick out to me. So one client in particular, they're doing a ton of assignments and wholesaling and flips, but they weren't ever paying themselves. And so for them, they felt as if they were almost living paycheck to paycheck every month. Now, the company was still profitable on paper. It's just the money was moving in and out so quickly, it wasn't dedicated to anything. So all we did was set up that owner's pay account. That's it. And we forced them to put a couple $1,000s a month into that owner's pay account. And we built it up for a little while until they felt safe that they could actually start drawing from it. And as soon as they started drawing from it, they were like, wow, the business actually can pay me. Right. And that was that little shift that they needed, because for them, their company grew a little bit, but it wasn't about scaling. It was much more about the lifestyle for them. So they actually just wanted, they were okay with keeping the business the same size as long as it started paying them. And we were able to accomplish that within a few short months. So that one always sticks out to me. There was another client who is, and many of us have been through this. Maybe those who are listening may have experienced this. Great years, crazy profit, but it also came with a crazy tax bill. And they did not have any money set aside for taxes. So by being able to set up that tax account, right, and essentially they're able to move that money over, then what we installed was the quarterly estimated payments. Boom, boom, boom. Now, it did take a cycle. So we worked with that client for a little over, well, we're still working with them, but it took a little over 18 months for them to realize it, because they still had to catch up from the past taxes. But after that, now they're at a point where they're making their quarterly estimated tax payments. They're okay. End of the year, they might get a refund, or it's not a big burden anymore. That money is allocated for it. And so that has taken a complete stress off of their shoulders, and it doesn't cause them to be reactive anymore at tax season, right? They could be more proactive and say, hey, now that money's there, I can focus on investments. I can focus on whatever else comes next.
Right. Because you need to be digging for money, trying to find how to pay this huge tax bill that you don't want to pay anyway. And now you got to now you got to figure out how to pay it.
Right. And I know you've seen this too, but the way you pay for it is by doing more deals. But by doing more deals, you create more tax burden. And it's an endless loop. So those are the two that really stick out to me, and I often refer to those. Yeah.
Yeah, those are great examples, because those are the two things, besides, obviously, we know profit. You want to pay yourself. You want to enjoy things. But those are so important, because a lot of people will start a business and not be able to pay themselves. And they're like, I'm just handing money over, but I'm watching money slip in and out of my hands. It's just in, it's out, it's in and out,
Right.
and not keeping it. So those are great examples. So we know that's one tab on the dashboard that I know a lot of people have gone into, like, yes, we have to use the P-Farm tab. It's amazing. But let's talk about the Simple CFO dashboard. What are we tracking? How does it actually help clients and CFOs make decisions? And if you have a specific example of how the dashboard changed the way a client sees their business.
Oh, yeah. So in the dashboard, we have the ability to track everything. But what's really important is that we're tracking real-time data. I think that's the most important piece there. So our dashboards, obviously, it's if we have QuickBooks set up with our client, it links directly to QuickBooks. So we have real data. We have real KPIs that we can measure. Now, for the CFO, it helps the CFO because there's a ton of tools that we can utilize for deal management, deal flow management, right? Cash flow management between the deals, between month to month, between weeks. We have all of that capability there. But we also can shrink down the complexity and just make it really easy for the client to read, right? We have the stoplight report, for example, where our clients can simply just pull up and see what they need to focus on for that quarter, for that month. Very, very simple. We have a KPI dashboard where we can see and quickly be able to articulate what's going well and what's not going well, right? The clients come with all different requirements as far as what they want to see. But what's important for us at Simple CFO is that our clients are getting the data that they need to make informed decisions. So that dashboard can be shrunk or it can be expanded in order to fit that need for our clients.
I like it. Yeah, and the pictures, I know when I was working on the dashboard, I thought, well, I need some graphs in here. I need pictures.
Right.
People like pictures. You
Yeah,
like to
absolutely.
see how your money moves throughout months, years, whatever. So it's nice to put those graphs in it, and they can just pull up one sheet and say, okay, this is what it looks like. Looks nice.
Yeah.
Or not.
Right.
All right. So last but not least, we want to talk about a full transformation story. So let's bring all the pieces in that we've talked about. Pick one client success story that shows the full Simple CFO transformation. What does that look like?
Mm, mm. Okay. I like using this one because it kind of goes against what people will think as a success story. So a couple comes in, they're cranking out a ton of deals, a ton of deals. They probably did about somewhere between 50 to 60 flips. However, their books weren't clean. So as we went through, we moved some things around, and then we found out that they actually lost money. So they did all this and they lost money, and they were feeling like, man, I feel like I'm living paycheck to paycheck. What's going on? So we dove into it and we realized what was happening. They were essentially being over leveraged. Their properties weren't performing. And then that money, that cash flow that they had was all coming from loans, private loans, hard money loans. And they were taking that borrowed money, that leveraged money, and then spending it on other things. So they lost track. They weren't using it for a specific purpose. So after we tightened everything up, they had a realization. They're like, hey, look, if we continue down this path, it's going to be a long uphill battle. So as we sat down, we revisited, we went back to that battle plan call and said, what was the purpose of starting the business? And then the couple talked about it and he said, honestly, it was just so that we could retire. We could kind of live our life. So what we did was we said, how can we continue to operate in the space that you're operating in, but buy back freedom, increase profits? So one, we got to get rid of all this borrowed debt. Let's get rid of all of it. So they actually decided to switch their business model from flips to wholesaling and assignments because they've already were doing some wholesales, but the flips were actually costing them the money. So they got rid of that. Then they said, but you know what? Our wholesale and assignment fees are significantly less than the supposed profits that we were making on the flips. I don't know if we can actually afford. They had an executive assistant. And I said, well, I don't think you can afford them either. But do you really need her if we're not dealing with contractors? You're not dealing with all these things. We're just assigning. It's like, no, I don't think we do. I said, okay. All right. So we had to get rid of her. So now cash flow is starting to come back in a little bit, but they're saying, now we have a deal flow issue. We can do marketing. We'll say, hold on. If the deal flow is the issue because our assignments are low, we've reduced our expenses. So now we're positive cash flow, but you just want to increase deal flow. What else do you enjoy? So the husband says, you know what? I love coaching. And then the wife says, but I love putting on events. I was like, well, if you coach and you put on events, why don't you go back to that? So what they ended up doing was starting wholesale coaching again in the community. They were able to bring in students who paid them for their coaching services. And then once the student brought in the deal, they would simply JV on the deal. So they got rid of their marketing concern. They had unlimited lead flow. They increased their cash flow through student membership, and then they increased their profitability by getting rid of overdue projects, over budget, high cost of borrowed money. And within about 18 months, their entire business model changed, completely 180, but they were now living that life that they originally intended when they started the business. And to me, that one, I love that story because it goes to show you don't always need to scale. You don't always need to scale. We just need to find whatever our original intention was and make sure that we are building the business around that to support that intention.
Definitely. I like that. So then where are they at today? Exercising profit first, making enough money, paying themselves?
Paying themselves, traveling. They're doing everything. Now, I'm sure, stress is inevitable in business, right? There is no such thing as a stress-free business and a stress-free life, but their stresses are significantly different. It's not a matter of living paycheck to paycheck anymore, right? It's more about student membership or gripes and complaints. They're the one-off JV wholesale assignment, but they have completely changed their lifestyle and their conversations.
Nice. That's an awesome story. I like it. All right. So that is the Simple CFO system in action, not theory, not a spreadsheet someone emailed over to you, a real CFO in your business meeting with you every single month. So if you're listening now and you're thinking the same thing, I know we said a bunch of you don't know you don't have any clarity. You're confused when you look at it, but you make good revenue, but you have no idea where your cash is going. Tired of running a business that doesn't work for you. As you can see from all the stories we've talked about, you're not alone. It happens, but it is absolutely fixable. We can help you. So head over to simplecfo.com, book a discovery call, and give us a chance to show you exactly where your money is going and how to keep more of it. Thank you, Michael, for joining us. I truly appreciate you being here. It's been amazing.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. See you guys in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Simple CFO Case Files on the Profit First for Real Estate Investors podcast. If you found this helpful, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our guest interviews featuring other real estate investors and our Profit First chats with David Richter. If you're ready to bring clarity and structure to the finances in your business, visit profitrei.com to apply for a free financial discovery call with our team.